Welcome to the shop. Today, we're talking about my new Durafly T-28 Trojan, 1100 millimeter. Discontinued plane. It's got some interesting things about it. The most interesting thing is where I got it. So, having a chat with a good friend of mine, Adam at Model Aviator, talking about T-28s. Go figure. And Adam says, hey, Will, I'm going to send you something. So, lo and behold, this box shows up at my house about a week later. Unopened box. It basically was never assembled. And Adam, out of the goodness of his heart, sent it to me for me to have. So he's just that kind of guy. If you've never gone to Model Aviator's YouTube channel, you're missing out. By far, the most detailed, descriptive reviews, honest reviews. I mean, he'll tell you exactly what he thinks of a plane. If there is an issue with the plane, guess what? He figures out how to fix that. And he shows you, basically takes you along the way. Great channel, heck of a great guy. His wife, Heidi, does amazing camera work. Got to check him out. Links in the description. So in my video, though, what I'm going to do is show off this plane. Box it, or unbox it, assemble it, do what I typically do, right? Go through all the process, all the little things I do, the modifications, things that I think are important to note from a shop tip perspective. Then we're going to go through the Maiden. Maiden didn't go, initially as I planned.
That's disappointing. In fact, nose gear has quit working.
Had some issues. The plane, when I finally got up in the air, flew great. It was getting it there that was some problems and some issues that I had, but not a big deal. Anyway, if you have any questions throughout the video, shoot me a comment. If you like and subscribe and all the cool stuff, I appreciate it a lot. Helps me. Stick around. All right, just unboxed it. So basically, it's packaged well. Everything looks good. There's nothing out of the ordinary. There's nothing damaged. These planes, there's a little building to do. We're going to have to put on the control horns, which isn't a big deal. All the screws are provided. Not a big deal on that. Looking inside the canopy, it's got a little magnet that attaches it. There's no clips or anything other than that. Ton of room for whatever I want to do here from installing some of the gear. I'm going to go through and test everything, make sure everything works properly. There isn't a place to put a strap in. I'll probably put it in a battery tray with the strap, somehow configure that to my liking. Might replace this ESC with a Avian Smart ESC because I just love telemetry, or put in a receiver that I can just run a line from here onto the receiver into the voltage telemetry sensor. So I have that. But for the most part, we should be good to go. By the way, in this, this is an older model. There's no documentation that it comes with this. So they don't have a manual on it at least it wasn't in mine. So I'm sure it's online, or I can go into RC groups and find out really everything I need, which is really, where's the center of gravity on this? Where have people found success with the center of gravity range? And then I can play with it from there, just so I have a starting point. Everything else is pretty much not a big deal. Yep, you might want to know a little bit more about the throws, how far to have some of the throws in the aileron and such. I usually set up, 3 different rates, low, medium, high. So as I'm flying it, if it's a little anemic, I can turn it to mid-rate or high rates and vice versa. So that's what I'm going to do in this process. Something that will be kind of fun to play with, the fact that this is kind of sort of set up for an FPV system. And I just so happen to have that's going to hook onto there. Camera pops up there. I just so happen to have a HD system ready for something to install in. Probably won't do flight computer or anything like that. Just put this in and fly it with the DJI goggles and maybe have some fun with that. I'll show that as a separate kind of video if I go down that path, which that's the plan. So anyway, stick around. We'll see what happens with that. All right, so they're screwed in. And I don't screw them in too tight, but you'll notice here, got big old screws hanging out. Can't have that. So I'm going to chop off. I'm going to mark where those screws are popping out, and I'm going to mark those. And I'm going to cut those screws off, re-screw it so it looks like it's supposed to. So made a little mark right about there. And I'm going to chop that off. Then I'm going to take a mill file and basically get that screw so it's not so jagged after cutting it. A couple different tools you could use. These are pretty good for cutting that. These are soft screws. It's not like this is hardened steel or anything. And then screw it back together. So there we go. Here's how I've done it. They're not, yeah, you could barely feel them, but that's how I kind of like to do it. So they're just coming up a little bit. You could feel them, but they're not sticking up 1/4 of an inch, because to me that just doesn't look very nice. And I like everything to look a little clean. So that's what I'm going to do on all the surfaces. Yep, takes more time, but it looks much, much better in the long run. Okay, one thing I wanted to do is hook these up to my servo tester. I don't have linkages on anything yet, but I did want to get everything kind of centered up. So I'm going to center up that, center up the flap servos. So everything, then I'll connect all of the linkages and test things out. Make sure things are moving, as far as the servos are moving the right way, and everything is good. So again, zeroed it out with my servo tester, 15, unplug it. Now I'll be able to put the linkages on without any worry. I didn't put on the brake yet. That's going to be something I'll mess with maybe later. We'll see. Now that I have all my control horns in, it's time to put on the control rods, at least for the ailerons. I'll put the flap ones in, but I won't connect them. Basically, you know the routine. You're going to make sure everything is nice and even on these control surfaces. So you're going to turn this in and out to make sure everything is perfect. Here's the funny thing. This is a 1-cent piece of cheap plastic. Your whole plane relies on this cheap piece of plastic to do its job. If it doesn't do its job, your multi-$100 plane is going to pile into the ground. So I highly recommend taking a sliver of fuel tubing and sliding it on here to hold this together. So if something does break, you might have a chance of saving it. It might stay on there well enough, and you hopefully are checking these things on a periodic, basis to make sure that down here doesn't get all cracked and mangled or whatever, goofed up. Anyway, always check those control horns or the clevises. So my only issue I'm having is the control surfaces, the ailerons, are bent. You can see they're bowed. So I'm going to try to do what I can to straighten that out without ripping or damaging anything. Might take a little I don't know yet, best way to do that, but I'm going to fiddle around with it. Just has a little slight bow in it. It was in the box probably for a long time. It's an old model. So we'll see if we can get that straightened out.
Okay, here's where we're at. Basically, everything's assembled. Receivers bound up, tested everything. Control surfaces are working correctly. Got the gyro on a switch. That's it. Now, for me at least, it's cleaning this mess up. Oh, one more thing. The brake on this, it has an air brake underneath. And since I only have 6 channels, I don't have a way of connecting it other than linking it with I don't know, let's say the flaps or something. But what I heard was that the servo is reversed if you hook it to the flap. So I've already connected up a servo reverser that goes to that particular device. So I can plug that into a Y cable with my flaps, and that might work. I don't know. I'll play around with it and see how that all happens. Battery situation, need to square away. A lot of the whole battery area and electronic compartment needs to get sorted out.
Okay, well, she's done. A couple things I want to go over. One is, what I did on the inside. Some of the changes I made. Not a lot. One thing, funny enough, is that they didn't include any kind of way to lift the canopy out other than to dig your finger underneath the back plastic here. So I just grabbed some Blenderm tape. Just have some Blenderm tape on there to take care of that situation. And attach it there and then fold it over on itself. Gives me a little place of grip. As I said earlier, I wanted to clean up the interior area. So on these interiors, you have this what's mold release, from this foam getting, basically injected into these molds, and they have a release agent on everything to make it slippery so it pops out. They don't remove that. So often, if you've ever put double stick tape down or put your Velcro in and it kind of peels off easy, you need to remove that mold release. Use a little bit of 70% alcohol and a Q-tip, and just scrape that off. Paper towel to wipe it, and then what I do is I take some E6000, just a small dab, and I smear it with that Q-tip, the other end, all in an area where I'm going to place something. What that does is gives you a nice tacky surface for my double stick tape that I attach to the back of my receiver. Double stick tape that goes onto the E6000 that's been sitting for maybe 20-30 minutes. Still has a little tackiness to it. Boy, that locks everything down. Really works great if you do use Velcro. I'm not a big Velcro fan. This particular thing, I wanted to set up a tray, wanted to do all kinds of things. I just couldn't figure out the best way to do it. So I'm just heck with it, throwing in some Velcro. Same thing, cleaned it with alcohol, hit it with E6000, put in the Velcro, voila. I did put in an AVN 45 amp ESC. I did that so I can just get the normal telemetry from the speed controller, give me a little bit more data than just the voltage, if I so want it. The other, obviously, as you can tell, clean things up. Zip ties are one of my favorite things, and just made it so the wiring isn't all over the place. I just don't like a big bird's nest of wiring. Anyway, so control surfaces, all done, all adjusted. I have triple rates, low, medium, high. That's how I like to do it. I've double checked the center of gravity with the battery I'm using. I think it's good. It's 2200, weighs around 250 grams, shoved all the way forward. I might bring some 3300s as well that weigh quite a bit more. And if I have to, I can move those around a little bit. But anyway, so that's it. She's fully tested. She's ready to go. The prop is on. Next step is taking her to the field and doing a maiden. I'd like to talk a little bit about center of gravity. So here in this document, this is the documentation, and it talks about the center of gravity. And it says 50 to 60 millimeters from the leading edge at the wing root. The funny thing is, it shows on this diagram. These pictures, don't pay attention to these pictures. A lot of times, like in this case here, it's showing that the center of gravity is right there. That's the symbol for center of gravity, at least I think it is. Okay, that would mean that the center of gravity is all the way back here on the wing, which it's not. It's not. And that's not 50 to 60 millimeters from anything up, from the leading edge, right? So sometimes these pictures are deceiving. This is where we're looking at RC groups. This is where we're looking at YouTube and some of these other people that have already owned this plane and where are they putting it. Sometimes they show you, sometimes they don't. Anyway, 50 to 60 from the leading edge at the wing root. So I'm going to measure it right from here, not from up here on this angle, but right here where this leading edge starts into this wing root here. And if I go back 50 to 60, I'm somewhere right around here. And that's where my balance point actually is. It's in front of that line, this panel line right there. Your center of gravity, where you like it, might be different than mine. I like them typically more aft. It flies slower for me. I can land it better. Now there are some areas with aerobatics that maybe it enhances, and other areas it might take away. And all planes are going to be different. Every pilot's going to be a little different on how they take advantage of center of gravity on their planes, how they set it up. So just kind of a word of caution when looking at some documentations where they tell you by a diagram to put center of gravity and where it actually should be. So do your homework. Center of gravity test, which I know the center of gravity, where that should be, right about there. Perfect. Looks good. Okay. Hearing a lot of grumbling from the...
Motor on. Flight mode 2, manual.
I think we have a problem with our nose gear. Well, that's disappointing. In fact, nose gear has quit working. Here's where we're at. I think everything's going okay. I think one of the flap servos is having some issues. Don't need flaps. And the nose wheel servo is dead. It ain't working anymore. So I'm going to see if I can take off without a nose wheel. Not sure how that's going to go. So we're going to give it a try anyway. Get her up and fly around, trim her, bring her down from landing. Let's see how this goat rodeo goes. Now she's up.
Gear up.
Gears up. She wants to climb. Quite a bit. Okay. And flying pretty level. Still wants to climb a bit. Now, gonna do some, I think got her leveled out pretty good. Not bad. She wants to go down a little bit, but that's perfect. Had to give just a little pressure on that. Ailerons have plenty of authority on low.
Time remaining 3 minutes. Flight pack 15.1 volts.
Plenty of battery left. Let's see what she looks like on a stall. Kind of just mushes. Might need a little more elevator authority. All right, I'm gonna try flap.
Take off flaps.
Got a little flap. See how she stalls with that. Not bad. Kind of mushes. Again, I don't think I have enough elevator authority. Full flap.
Flaps. Flaps up.
Okay, that's not too bad. And I get her in here for some good views.
Time remaining 2 minutes.
All right, I'm going to turn the gyro on, get her up high, and
Flight mode 1, gyro.
could dial down the gains a little bit on roll. Just a little, not much.
Flight pack 14.6 volts.
She's a great looking plane. I'm very happy. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. Do a little slow fly. Just kind of feel it out. She's a light plane too, which really helps in these kind of things. I don't have the brakes on it, so the brakes I didn't set up at all.
Flaps up.
Vertical. There's vertical, and she stops.
Time remains.
All right, we're going to bring her for landing.
Gear down.
Not going to use any.
Time remaining 1 minute.
Not going to use any flaps. Just going to see how she comes in for a landing. If I lift her nose up, I can steer her with the rudder. No, she's not gonna do it. I gotta go down and get her. Can't turn her around, no nose wheel. See, right? Final thoughts on this plane. So, look, the plane flies exceptionally well. I've flown it a bunch more. I've tweaked it a little bit here and there as far as the gyro and the throws, and a little bit more on the center of gravity. Had to add a little weight to the nose. Not a big deal. There was, as far as the issues of the warped control surfaces and the bad servo, not a big deal. The servo literally took 10 minutes to swap out. So, that's a nit. The plane flies well. Is it a powerhouse like some of the E-flite 1.2s that they have out now? Nope, it's not. It's not the same. It's not going to fly as fast or have unlimited vertical. But it's really light and nimble and a real joy to fly. I'm going to enjoy it for quite a while. If you have any questions, shoot me a comment. Like and subscribe. Appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed. Take care.